Hello, everyone. I understand I'm not quite as on the ball with this discussion as I was with the first season, but, besides the fact that this season is twice as long, I also don't just have the same amount of free time to binge the entire thing in one sitting. And frankly, after my opinion on the first season, which you can find a video of, I'll probably put a code up there if I remember, I just wasn't too excited to watch this. Anyway, this is Season 2 of Netflix's Castlevania, a little discussion about my thoughts. They're not going to be quite as structured as they were with my video on Season 1, just because back in Season 1, I was watching the show and taking notes, so I remembered to talk about everything. I didn't do that this time, because I was watching it in the library on my phone. So I'm just sort of working off memory. I'm not going to be going by episodes, talk about everything. I'm just going to be sort of talking about my general impressions about the show. Or this season, at least. I suppose I might as well give a bit of a recap first in case you don't feel like watching the whole first video about why I wasn't so fond of the first season despite a lot of other people being fans of it. And it really came down to just the fact that it was just so crude. Trevor's always swearing and drinking. There's people talking about having sex with goats. It just does not feel, I don't know what's the word, but it just feels gross and uncomfortable, and I don't like that. I don't like using those kinds of words, but that's really the best way I can describe it. I don't know if I said it, but I believed it back then, and I still believe it. The only reason a Castlevania series should be rated TVMA is just violence. Blood and violence should be the only reason, and I still maintain that. But other than that, it was animated well, it was voiced well, it was written, aside from that stuff I just mentioned, it was written well, there was good action, and there was good attention to detail about the games that it's based on. So there was promise for season 2, and everything I thought about the first season is amplified here in that the animation's probably about the same. I'm not really an expert on this sort of thing, so I can't tell you if it was better or not. But I think it was written a little tighter. The action was quite impressive this time around. There was some great fight scenes. Some of the fan service to fans of the games was there, Slagra and whoever the other guy was showed up in a fight scene, and they even did the thing where the guy picks up Slagra and carries him around like in Symphony of the Night. That was cool. And they do pay attention to the lore of the series. I was already sort of surprised back in season 1 when they included a story from Symphony of the Night with Lisa. And I guess that made sense because Symphony of the Night was Alucard's big game, and since he was in Castlevania 3, it made sense to tie the two together, besides probably fitting in timeline-wise. I'm not an expert on the Castlevania timeline. But this season took it a step further. I was not expecting them to interweave Curse of Darkness on the PS2 into the plot so thoroughly. Mostly because I didn't know anything about Curse of Darkness. I never played it. I just looked it up on Wikipedia while I was watching it. But yeah, Hector and Isaac, the game's main protagonist and antagonist respectively, are now main characters of this season. So, and they're still alive by the end, and they're building up to something bigger. So, actually, surprisingly, considering a third season's already been announced, it's probably going to be an adaptation of Curse of Darkness. I really was expecting them to just stick to the old ones that people knew, but, if they want to pay their respects to the PS2 games, then hey, more power to them. That was actually a very cool way to go about it. But this unfortunately also means that they amplified all the good stuff. They amplified the bad stuff too. Trevor is a better character this time around. He's not nearly as immature and just unlikable like he was in season 1. He is still a bit of a snarky jerk, and he still says fuck. Hashtag let Trevor say fuck. And then immediately afterwards, hashtag never let Trevor say fuck again. Never let anyone. Don't let Alucard say fuck. That does actually bother me. You know, Alucard he's a vampire. He should be a little more graceful and elegant. Like, you know, Dracula is still treated well like he was in season 1. I stand by that. The first episode of season 1 was the best, just because for the most part, Trevor isn't in it. It's just Dracula. And I feel like they knew that. The staff knew that because like half of this, at least, most of this season, in fact, is in Dracula's castle dealing with the vampires, what they're doing. And that admittedly makes the pacing feel kind of weird. Because for a good chunk of the season could be summed up as the vampires are arguing about what they should do, and then every once in a while cut back to Trevor's team and see, oh, they're in a basement reading books. Like, that's most of the season right there. But for the most part, I'm okay with seeing more of the vampires, because the villain side was the best part of season 1. And this time they add more characters, a bunch of unnamed ones who don't do anything. They don't even have lines. We don't know anything about them. They're just there. They have Carmilla, so that's another. I have no idea. I still have no idea what her deal is. I just know she was in Judgment, but she's there. She's a major player. And then they have Godbrand, who thank God, according to TV Tropes, he is an original character of this series. I am so glad that Castlevania games name does not have to be besmirched by this fucking asshole. I hate him. He contributes nothing. He never does anything good. And he's just all of Trevor's horrible character traits from the first season cranked up. I was so goddamn happy when in the halfway through the season he's just killed. Like, thank you. I can't say anything else about him. I despise that character. And I do sort of have to focus on this side of things because, like I said, the Belmonts don't really do anything. It's mostly just the vampires squabbling among themselves. So the pacing does admittedly feel very weird, very... like it doesn't go... Despite the fact it's like they have the same amount of story, but they have twice the episodes. So it feels like it could, like a lot of scenes just don't need to be there, honestly, or there's a lot of repeating, hey, Carmilla's scheming. So I suppose I can at least, the thing is I can't really say anything about like the bad stuff because it's all the same shit as the first season. And yes, I do recognize the irony that I'm swearing while talking about how this show shouldn't be swearing. I'm not saying swearing itself is bad. I do it all the time. I'm just saying it doesn't match Castlevania. Or maybe it was in the PS2 games. I don't know. I didn't play them. But there was at least some actually good standout stuff, I will admit. Finally, like, goddamn, I said this in the first season. Multiple people said this in the first season. The total lack of music from the games. Like, Castlevania is one of the most iconic soundtracks in gaming, and they couldn't use one song. And in hindsight, it's even worse because Mega Man Fully Charged is not a great show. I still like it. It's not great, but at the very least, it uses music from the games appropriately, frequently. You know, when Mega Man's fighting a Robot Master, they use that Robot Master's theme. It makes sense, but I don't know, is Castlevania too serious? If we heard a song we recognized, would that suddenly take us out of the experience? No, we're Castlevania fans. We want to hear music. So finally, big fight scene in the 7th episode, I believe. Trevor, Cypher, and Alucard bust into Dracula's castle, take out all the vampires and creatures of the night, you know, besides Carmilla and Dracula. And they play Bloody Tears. Like, yes, I was so happy to hear that. I was a little spoiled on it because I listen to Castlevania music every once in a while, so YouTube knows I like Castlevania music. So every once in a while I would see on my homepage, like, Castlevania Season 2 vampire fight scene with Bloody Tears. And I kind of thought, I didn't believe they actually would incorporate music from the games. So I just kind of thought that was a fan edit. I never bothered to watch the video because I hadn't seen Season 2 yet. So I was like, okay, someone at least took the time to fix it. And then I got to the episode. I was like, oh shit, no, they're actually playing Bloody Tears. And it's a great rendition of the song. Which is why I recognize I'm nitpicking here. I know. But Bloody Tears, I love the song. It's one of my favorites, just behind Bloodlines in terms of my favorite song in the series. But it's not a song I associate with Castlevania 3. You know, I would think they'd use Beginnings. That would make the most sense to me, but I'm not arguing that it's there and it's a great version of the song. I just kind of wish that it was a different song that better matched Castlevania 3. I don't want to spoil it, but in the last episode, besides the fact that it kind of feels like it's overshadowing Trevor, like Alucard does a lot of the work, so Trevor does feel a little bit underutilized. Like he doesn't get to deal the final blow to Dracula, just to say that. I mean, I guess he kind of does, sorta. It's weird. So that's a little disappointing that Alucard's the one that gets all the focus once you get to the end. But I don't want to spoil what happens, but there is a scene between Dracula and Alucard that I wasn't expecting. I wouldn't have imagined it would be there. Just like if you asked me what sort of a character is Dracula, even in the context of this series, I'm not sure I would have come up with it. But I'm so happy they did it. It was a fantastic scene. Very emotionally gripping. I wasn't expecting that. So you know what? That was a change from the games that was for the better. You know what? I mean, Warren Ellis knows what he's doing. Like, he's not just taking this project on as a paycheck, you know? He knows Castlevania lore. He understands the series. And he wants to respect it, you know? They'll throw, you know, not even just a throwaway line when there's a point where Cypher questions, hey, Belmont doesn't seem like a name native to this region. I don't remember what the name of the area is. And Trevor says, like, yeah, we're actually originally French. We migrated here when Leon Belmont went to hunt Dracula like 500 years ago. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's canon. That's the plot of the series. Like I said, Curse of Darkness was a direct sequel to Castlevania 3, and it introduces Hector, according to the Wikipedia page. I have not played the game. I just read the wiki page that mentions, like, hey, Hector was in Dracula's employ, and then he left, which, of course, we never saw in Castlevania 3. So they're fixing the canon, basically. Like, hey, this is what he was doing in Castlevania 3. That's cool. And the same thing with Isaac. Again, I can't say for myself. I only know this from TV tropes. But apparently Isaac was not a good character in Curse of Darkness. And he's not exactly compelling here. I can't say I cared too much about him, but he's interesting to watch at least. I cared a little bit more about Hector, but I suppose that's fitting. Hector's the protagonist of the next arc. Also, I will also give Isaac major points because he's the one that killed Godbrand. So, best character in the series right there just for that. I wasn't really expecting them to finish Castlevania 3 this season. Like, just for the longest time, I didn't believe that they were finishing it because it took so long. Like, it's like at the end of the 7th episode or something when they finally get inside Dracula's castle, and then it's just fight through all the vampires in the lobby, run up the stairs and fight Dracula. Not even the long staircase from the games. Like, that's a shame. So, considering that games like Symphony Onwards can take place entirely in the castle, that does feel a little disappointing that they don't do anything with it. Like I said, it wasn't a joke. They spend most of the season in a basement reading books. Oh yeah, another missed opportunity. Where the hell was Death? Like, I seem to remember he was in the first season when Dracula declared war on humanity and he's talking to Death. It's like, it's going to take a year for you to build an army. And then Hector and Isaac were the guys in charge of building the army. So I don't know what Death was doing. And he never shows up in this season. Like, I'm sorry, I thought Dracula and Death were best bros. Like, what's going on here? Death doesn't have Dracula's back anymore? That's one of the long-standing conventions of the series. I suppose that's really it about Season 2. I don't have as much to talk about because, frankly, I'm not as angry as I was with Season 1. I'm just kind of tired that they're still doing the same shit. Like, next season is a new game, Curse of Darkness. They have a chance that they can slightly reinvent themselves. Just just cut out the swearing, just cut out the sex stuff. Like, make it so MA only means violence, and you will have an amazing series. Like, not even just great. Like, outside of that, if they also fix the pacing a little bit, maybe had a few more fight scenes, they could have something incredible here. They just need to realize the worst part of their series, and that's really the part that bothers me about the series so much. Like I said, Warren Ellis knows what he's doing with this series. He just feels the need to put in all of this immaturity that does not fit and distracts from the mood and just makes me angry that it exists at all. You know, I mean, like I said, Mega Man Fully Charged is not a great show, but in the end, I prefer watching it over Castlevania because it at least fits Mega Man. You know, it fits tonally. This feels like, it honestly doesn't even feel like how could this happen? I mean, someone, I guess, either there's executive mandating that I can't imagine because Netflix really isn't that controlling from what I understand. I mean, they didn't have a problem with BoJack just having an episode of him standing at a podium talking for literally 25 minutes. By the way, season 5 of BoJack was good. But does he just not understand the tone? Like, does Warren Ellis, does he think this is funny? Because someone smack him upside the head and tell him, no, it's not. It's really annoying. And I've heard a couple Castlevania fans that say, like, yeah, I'd like this series a lot more if it didn't have this. And then, of course, I hear a lot of people just saying, like, yo, this series is amazing. And it can be. It can be, but I don't understand how so many people can be on board with this show when it really does so much wrong. So I'm really, there were parts of this season that were good. So I'm really hoping that season 3 has a chance to fix it. But frankly, I'm not exactly holding my breath. I'll watch season 3 when it comes out, but it's gonna feel kind of weird. So what do you think the series is gonna do after season 3? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if season 3 was just, it's probably at least gonna be 8 episodes. Maybe they'll bump it up to 12 this time, in which case they should have enough time to just get Curse of Darkness out of the way in one season. What do you think would follow after that? I'm not entirely familiar with the timeline, so I don't know who canonically comes next. I feel like the next one is Simon? Is his stuff next? But I understand he's obviously the most famous Belmont, but I kind of don't see him working because his adventure was just Dracula came back, he walked into Dracula's castle, he killed him, he got cursed, and the Angry Video Game Nerd made a video about it. Like, that's really all Simon does, so I honestly don't see them adapting Simon's story. Which means that, in my opinion, after Curse of Darkness, there's going to be obviously a humongous time skip, like 300 years at least, and we're going to go to Rondo of Blood, which would be amazing. I love Rondo of Blood as a game. It's a fantastic game, and there could be a fun series, but you do not have any idea how pissed I will be if they make Richter an asshole like they did Trevor. Richter is a pure guy, all right? Like, look at the intro in the TurboGrafx version when he finds that that Dracula's back and Annette's been captured. Like, he's sitting in a study. He's got a good dress on. Like, that is a good, pure man, and I do not want to hear him swear. I want to hear nothing. I want to hear nothing but good things come out of Richter. Anyway, that was season 2. I hope season 3 is better. Until then, at the very least, it's part of a good renaissance of video game cartoons. You know, Sonic Boom's not coming back. I'm very sad about that. But God, Sonic Boom was so good. Mega Man Fully Charged really is trying. Like, they're hamstrung by the fact that it's a little kid's cartoon, but they are trying. I can tell there's effort being put in by people who like Mega Man. And same thing here. I can tell you guys like Castlevania. You just need to get a little bit of a better handle on it to make something that could be amazing. Until then, I still have kind of a hard time recommending it. Goddamn, that fight scene was good though.